Let me check here. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, so as I was talking to you, today we're going to start with a second part of our specialization program. Remember that the name of this program is Linguistics Applied to Teaching. No? So we've started with the first part that was related to linguistics, no? And we talked about different branches of linguistics, no? The most important, because here you have that we have more branches of linguistics, no? So we talked about phonetics, phonology, no, morphology, syntax, but we have more. But the most important here in order to teach a language, no, we have these four, no? That is the sounds related to phonetics and phonology. Then we have the structure of words or sentences. If we talk about morphology and syntax, no? And we finish with a syntax module related to the structure of sentences, no? Now we are going to start to talk about, we're going to start talking about the different skills that we develop when we learn or when we teach a language, right? And we have four, right? So today we're going to start with one of these skills, that is reading, the reading skill. But we have also speaking, reading, listening, and writing. No? So we have these four, and then we are going to talk about these skills, all right? So don't forget, now we are going to start talking about the different processes related to teaching these four skills. And we are going to start with the reading skill, okay? Good evening to everyone. So here we're going to start with this. But as I told you before, when we talk about a language, we are going to manage some skills. No, the four most important are, here you have this. As you can see here, what is this? Can you recognize? What is the skill?
Listening.
Listening.
Listening. Everybody says listening.
Yes.
Yeah, this skill?
Speaking.
Speaking.
Speaking. All right. This one?
Reading.
Reading. Yes, reading. The other one?
Writing.
Writing.
Writing. Okay, so here we have these four skills, as you told me. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So don't forget about, these are the four principal skills when you want to learn or teach a language. You know? Then we have other sub-skills. Then we're going to talk about this. So here, notice that we are going to classify these skills into two categories. Receptive skills, the receptive skills, and we have the other one that are the productive skills. Why do we say that listening and reading are receptive skills? Can you tell me? Why do we say that? That listening and reading are receptive skills. What's the reason? Receptive. What does it mean, receptive?
To receive information.
No production.
We are going to receive information. We're going to receive information. We're going to decode. No, notice this term. We're going to decode some symbols, sounds. No, remember, that's why we talked about phonetics, phonology, morphology, and syntax. So we're going to decodify. Our brain is going to decodify these sounds, these symbols, in order to acquire or to teach the language, to learn or acquire a language, all right? So we are going to receive, this is the input, all right? This is the input, what we receive. Now, the other is the productive. Why do we say that the speaking and writing are productive skills? Productive means that we are going to
The information.
Yeah, we are going to The same word. Productive comes from
Produce.
the word
Produce.
produce.
Produce
Yes,
information.
that's right. We're going to produce. Yes, Monica. And this is the output. Remember, input is what we receive, okay? What we receive by hearing, by reading. This is that receptive skills. And the productive ones are what we are going to produce, the output. You could produce by writing, no? You could produce something by writing, or you could produce something by speaking, producing sounds. No? So don't forget about it. Yeah? So here we have these four principal skills, yeah? And we are going to categorize them into receptive and productive skills. Receptive, listening and reading. Productive, speaking and writing, okay? Receptive, what we receive is the input of the language. And productive, what we are going to produce, all right? This is the output of the language, all right? So here we have the input, as I told you, and this is the output. Don't forget it. Input, output, all right? For example, these terms are also applied to computing, no? Input devices and output devices. Input devices, we have the keyboard, no? The output devices is the printer, the speaker, no? So notice here there's a simile, no? This is a simile in order to compare to computing skills. So we have computed a field. So we have the input is what we receive, output is what we produce, all right? So let's continue talking about this. Another difference between these skills. The first two ones here are spoken. Listening and speaking belongs to the spoken language. Yeah, a spoken language. So it means that you are going to listen and produce sounds. All right? Sounds. That's why we say spoken language. All right? Listening and speaking belongs to the spoken language. So right now, for example, you are listening to me and I'm speaking to you. So this is the spoken language, all right? On the other side, we have the other two, reading and writing belongs to the written language. So notice here the differences between these four skills, no? First, the kind of skills, receptive and productive. Then the kind of language. What language are we going to use to apply these skills? Listening and speaking belongs to the spoken language. And reading and writing belongs to the written language, letters that we use, no? And letters where we are going to read or write, okay? Or graphemes, no? That we're going to use to write. Okay, so here you have an analysis about these four skills. Remember that now we are going to talk about them and we are going to analyze how to teach them. But first here we have to acquire some knowledge about these terms, all right? So this first class is gonna be related to the definition of some terms on the field of teaching, reading, specifically reading. But here this is a background about the four skills that we have to know, we have to learn, or we have to teach in this period, all right? So let's pass to the other one. The receptive skills. Notice something important related to receptive skills. Learners do not need to produce language to do this. No, some of you told me that. You don't produce, right? So learners do not need to produce language, because then when you read or when you listen, you make some learning processes here on your mind, on your brain, all right? So, you receive and understand. Remember, you receive and understand. And also in the process of learning, learners start with receptive understanding of the new items, then goes to the productive use. No? So here we have a simile again. I want you to compare with our learning or our acquisition of our language. How do we acquire our language, Spanish? No, remember, we are native Spanish speakers. So how do we acquire our language? If you notice, if you analyze, when we were little kids, little babies, the first step is that we listened to our parents, to our brother or sister, relatives, neighbors. No, when we were little kids, first we're going to listen. We listen, and then we start to produce. All right. So that's why here says something similar happens when you learn a language, a second language or a foreign language. First, you start with the receptive understanding of the new items, the new language, the new codes, and then you go to the production, to the production of these language, of these codes. Yeah? So don't forget about this aspect of receptive skills. You don't produce the language, you receive and understand, and mainly this is the first step in order to learn or acquire a language. You know, notice that learning and acquiring is a kind of different, right? So here you learn is something conscious, but when you acquire, it's unconscious. For example, us as a native speaker, as I told you, we acquire the language. Then we learned the language when we went to school, right? In order to analyze some aspects of the language. But when you learn a second language or a foreign language, it's conscious because you analyze. Sometimes you compare with your own language, or you analyze the structure, the sounds, the pronunciation. No? As we were talking about the last modules, no, we analyze the system of the phonological system of English, then the structure, syntactical structure of English. So this is learning, this is conscious. So here, in this process of learning, we start with a receptive understanding. So we start with a receptive skill, and then we pass to the productive skills, all right? Okay, now, let's pass to the other one, the productive skills. What happened with the productive skills? Here, learners need to produce the language. So you are going to produce, you are going to articulate. We talked about, remember that here, we talk about sounds, speaking. Remember the productive skills are speaking and writing. So if you want to learn the language and use the productive skills, you have to produce sounds, no? Articulate sounds. You have to combine these sounds and you make words, no? And you send a message. So you need to produce the language. Something happens similar to the writing. So you have to write. You make words, no? You apply morphology and syntax to write, okay? So you apply this. On speaking, you apply phonetics and phonology. On the writing, you apply your knowledge about morphology and syntax. You apply this knowledge, this linguistic knowledge, to produce something in a written language, no? And you apply morphology in order to make words and syntax in order to make sentences. So notice that's why it's so important to have a linguistic knowledge. No? This is, in some terms, in some linguistics says that this is the linguistic competence. But now you have to use your communicative competence. Not just you have to, or you need to have just a linguistic competence. Because with a linguistic, you can know a lot of grammar, a lot of structure, you can know a lot of rules, but when you want to produce, you can do it because you're not developing the communicative competence. That's why here, in productive skills, you need to produce. You need to communicate by writing or by speaking. Now, here, then you have the learners have spent time practicing the receptive skills. No? So we're talking about you first listen, no? You hear, you receive the input, remember, the input, and then you start to produce. So this is the output, all right? So you keep time, or you spend time practicing these receptive skills, right? Listening mostly, no? Sometimes reading, but I think most of the time it's just listening. No? You start listening to other people speaking, and then you start to produce, all right? And finally, they can be in an oral or written form. No, as I told you here, these productive skills could be in an oral or written form, no? When you speak or when you write, okay? So don't forget about this information related to the 4 skills. Remember, we have these 4 skills. I know you know it, but this is in order to reinforce it. Yeah? We have listening, reading, writing, speaking. Yeah? Listening and reading, they are, how do we call listening and reading? How do you call these 2 skills? Listening and reading?
No productive.
Receiving product.
Receptive.
Yes, that's it. Receptive skills. No? And writing and speaking, you have here on the slide?
Productive.
Productive. Yes, the productive skills. Listening and reading are related to the input, and speaking and writing are related to
Output.
the output of the language. All right, so don't forget about these terms, the input, the output, and the receptive and productive skills. So here we are going to start talking about this first skill, reading, one of the receptive. No, this is one of the receptive because we have listening and reading as receptive ones, right? So let's start with this first skill, reading. This is the topic of this module, reading. And I want you to tell me your ideas. What do you have in mind? What do you mean by reading? Tell me your concept of reading. What is reading for you?
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process, all right. What else? What else? Tell me more. What is reading for you? Any other idea? Reading? Teacher, the action to read. Don't tell me that.
Reading and
What is
understand.
reading? No more ideas? You can write it on the chat if you don't have your microphone.
It's a for to.
It's a, excuse me, I couldn't hear you well.
It's a for. It's uh, a thing that
Process.
we can acquire knowledge.
Yeah, okay, it's a form, it's a kind, it's a way to acquire knowledge, all right? Yeah, I have 2 ideas. One of you told me that it's a process, it's a way, it's a form, it's a kind to acquire knowledge. Monica says, reading is related to comprehension. Yes, that's it, to comprehend. What else?
Is a skill?
Yeah, yes, I told you before, no, it's a skill. Skill remains an ability, no? Skill, Tell me more ideas. It's a process, it's a kind of related to comprehension, it's a way to acquire knowledge. What else? What do you mean by reading? John says it's the way for comprehend, for comprehension. All right, that's good, John. Any other one? No more? And what do you mean by comprehend or comprehension? What is that?
Understanding.
To understand. Remember, receptive skills are related to receive and understand. That's it. Something else? No more? No more ideas about reading? All right, Monica. Comprehension is when you get the information. You can obtain, no? You can obtain or get some information about what you read, no? What you decode. All right, so we're going to see what is a reading. Oh, here I have another comment. Yes, Anna, it's a cognitive process. All right. This is a cognitive because remember that we are going to apply some processes in order to obtain, as you told me, some information, some knowledge, no? So this is the way. All right, so let's see what is reading. We are going to analyze some aspects of reading, all right? So reading here says that is a conscious and unconscious thinking process. Remember, yeah? Reading is a conscious and unconscious thinking process. You have to think, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously, all right? Then we're going to analyze what does it mean conscious and unconscious, okay? But don't forget, it's a process. You told me that, right? Some of you told me, yes, it's a process. What kind of process? It's a thinking process. Sometimes could be done consciously and sometimes could be done unconsciously or both, no? We are going to mix conscious and unconscious way of thinking. So don't forget what is reading. Then, oh, just a minute, please. Some people is waiting to enter. Yeah, okay. So here we have on the second aspect of reading, the reading applies many strategies, notice here, many strategies to reconstruct the meaning that the author is assumed to have intended. So as a reader, as the person who is going to read, we use strategies. We are going to use strategies to reconstruct. Notice here, you have, for example, a test, no? A written test. So you have to decodify this, no? Reconstruct this into a meaning. So you want to know, or you have to know, what is the message of this test? What is the idea? What is the meaning? What is the author want to send? This is why we use many strategies to do that. All right? In just a minute, more people. Yeah. So don't forget it. Reading is a thinking process. All right? We're going to reconstruct, decodify what is the message of the author message. All right? What is the intended message, the meaning? In order to do that, we're going to apply strategies. All right? So we are going to do this. What is involved in reading? So we know that this is a process. No, we are going to reconstruct. We're going to use strategies. Could you tell me what strategies are we going to use to reconstruct the meaning of a text? Do you have any idea? What is involved in reading specifically? What strategies do we use to reconstruct, to decodify the message? No, nobody?
No. No.
Okay.
Words?
Yeah. Okay, so in a test we can see words. And what do we do with these words? What do we do with these words? Okay, Monica, we are going to use some brains structures, okay, comprehension, we are going to comprehend. All right, so notice here what is involved in the process of reading. Remember, this is a process, all right? So let's see it. The reader, notice here, the reader does this by comparing information. Notice, this is one of the strategies as a reader, all right? We use it as a reader. We are going to compare information in the test to his or her background knowledge or prior experience. Reading, sometimes you say, oh, teacher, yeah, read is to just watch the words and understand the words, right? Yeah, this is the general meaning of reading. But when you read, you use other strategies. That's what I told you. What strategies do we use to decodify, to reconstruct this meaning? One of these is compare information. You compare information in the test with the knowledge, the background knowledge you have, or prior experience you have. So you make a comparison. Oh yeah, this topic, this test is related to what I know or what I pass through, what I live. So you're, oh no, this test, no, is not similar. I don't know about this test, because you make a comparison with your background knowledge. You say, no, I don't know about this topic, no? For example, when I told you, do you know what are the strategies? You were thinking, no? Oh yeah, I can remember, I've heard it. No, I didn't hear it, didn't read it. No, I don't know. So you compare. In reading, you do the same. When you read a test, so you say, oh yeah, this reading, yeah, it's talking about health. Yes, I know something about health. Yeah, you have to eat carefully, healthy, fruits, vegetables. Yes, I know that. So you make a simile, you make a comparison. Remember, you compare the information in the test with your background knowledge or your prior experience, all right? This is one of the strategies. Now, a reader approaches a test with a huge store of a prior knowledge and experience, including preconceptions about the uses of a spoken and written language. So again, here says that we are going to use our knowledge, our experience, all right? And also what we know about the uses of a spoken and written language. All right, so here we are going to compare, all right? We are going to compare the knowledge, the previous knowledge, the background knowledge that we have, or experiences that we have, or the knowledge that we have or related to the uses of a spoken and written language, all right? So this is one of the steps of what is involved in reading. Now, let's pass to another one. All of a person's prior knowledge, experience, and values are organized in categories or schemata. Remember this term, schemata. Schemata is all the knowledge, the prior knowledge or experience or values that we have. And we have different schemas. Schemas are singular, right? Your beliefs, your values, your opinions, your experiences, the knowledge of the language is so important too. The knowledge of language you have. So all of this we call schemata, all right? So we are going to use this when we read a test, the schemata, and we compare it to the information given in the test, all right? Each category or schema, as I told you, is connected to many other schemata in a complex mental network. That's why one of your partners says, no, it's a brains process, not cognitive process, because we are going to connect all the different schemas to any other schemata, and we are going to have a complex mental network, all right? Network is the connections, no? The connections that we have in our mind, no? In our brain. So we are going to activate this, and we are going to compare it to the information given in the test, okay? Now, the reader matches that information with background knowledge and is able to construct a version of the test meaning. Remember, we're going to match, we're going to compare this information with our knowledge, and we are going to be able to construct a version of the test meaning, all right? For example, sometimes here is difficult to to have a precise meaning, because not all people have the same background knowledge. One person read a test and maybe they can decodify, they can understand these tests in one way. This person has one meaning of the test. Another person has another meaning of the test because he has another knowledge, another background knowledge, another schemata, remember? And we have different meanings when they read it, all right? That's why I told you that sometimes it's difficult not to assess this kind of a skill because we have different background knowledges, all right? So don't forget about the term that we are going to use, schemata. Remember, schemata or schemas are the prior knowledge, experiences, values that the reader has before reading, no? And the reader uses this information, this schemata, with the new information that is presented in the written test, okay? So notice what is involved in the process of reading. When a person reads, here we have two aspects of this human information processing system. We are going to use two, all right? Two aspects. Remember that reading it's a process that we are going to manage information, and we are going to use these two aspects continuously. The first aspect is when the reader focuses primarily on what he or she already knows. This is called a concept-driven or top-down mode. Remember, so when the reader uses what he knows or what she knows in order to compare it with the written information, so this is called a concept-driven, or it is mostly known as top-down mode. Yeah, remember this, top-down mode. You use your prior knowledge, your previous knowledge, your background knowledge in order to identify the meaning of the test. All right? So we call this the top-down mode. Yeah? What about the other one? On the other hand, when the reader relies primarily on textual features and information to comprehend, this is called a data-driven or bottom-up model. So here you have the second one. Notice, now you are not going to use your background knowledge. No, you are not going to use your schemata, all right? Now what are you going to use? The textual features and information to comprehend. Yeah, so you're going to use the written test, the language feature in the test, in order to comprehend this test. We call this data-driven or bottom-up model. So don't forget, we have two models, two aspects when we read a test, and we are going to use them in an interactively way, the bottom-up and the top-down model. Top-down, remember, you use your background knowledge, your schemata to identify the meaning of the test. And on the bottom up, you use the features, the textual features on the test, on information to comprehend, to have a comprehension. This is what you told me, right? To comprehend what the test says. And this is called bottom up. Remember, bottom up, okay? So we have these two models. In other words, the reader is constantly noticing parts of the test and comparing that sample with what he or she already knows. So here we have these two aspects, all right? We have these two aspects. Remember, when you read something, you just not decodify. Ah, yeah, this is intelligent. Ah, yeah, this means smart. Okay. Ah, no, this is present simple. Oh, yeah, okay. So the meaning is impressive. The meaning is about. This is what you notice the parts of the test but also you compare that sample, that test, with what you know or what he or she already knows. All right, so this is similar to what I told you, no, at the beginning. When you read a test, for example, an article about health, no, the teacher gave to students an article about how to eat healthy. So what do the students do? Oh, they see maybe, yeah, here, yeah, fruits, yes, I know, my biology class or my, I don't know, how do you say, the CTS? I think so. I can't remember exactly the name of this subject, yeah, here in Spanish. So, oh yes, my teacher of CTS told me that we need to eat fruit to get proteins. So he matches, notice, he matches this knowledge that he has with the test that he's reading in English. So he's using the schemata, all right? The prior knowledge, the value. Oh, maybe he didn't pay attention to the biology or CTS class, but his parents told him, please don't eat too much snacks or junk food. You need to eat fruit because you are going to be healthy. So he remembered that, oh yes, my father, my mother told me that I have to eat healthy because fruit is a source of protein. So he uses this knowledge, this prior knowledge, and match to the new information that is given, all right? So don't forget, we're going to use these two aspects continuously in the process of reading. We are going to use or notice parts of the test and also compare that with what we know, we already know, or we have learned or acquired, or we have believed, all right? So this is what is involved in reading. Don't forget it, we have two, all right? Two aspects in reading. Okay, now, we're going to continue with this, and we are going to pass now to analyze this graphic. Notice this graphic, all right? On the top part, no, the top part, we have the reader, and at the bottom, we have the test. And notice the arrows, no? In the first part, at the top, we have in a lineal, no? So we have background knowledge, knowledge about language and literacy. This is one of the terms that we are going to analyze later, yeah? And cultural values and beliefs. And in the second, at the bottom, we have the test, the written information. So the test provides new data to be processed. So the shapes and sounds of the letters, the meaning of words or phrases, grammatical information. So we have all of this. And notice the other arrows that you have here. Up and down, up and down, up and down. So there is an interaction. Notice that there is an interaction. And when you do this interaction, so the reader matches the data and the schema, so what we got? Comprehension. This is comprehension, all right? So notice this interaction. The reader compares, this is my background knowledge. Oh yeah, now I'm going to check the meaning. Oh yeah, proteins, fruits, yes. Yes, I know about it. Yeah, then, oh yeah, the knowledge of the language. But here, oh, my language, I have this. But in the other language, we have the other one. So notice here, the processes, the aspect that we are going to apply when we read something. Now we are going to make these aspects. Now we are going to use the background knowledge, knowledge about language and literacy, cultural values and beliefs, and we are going to use them with what the test provides. The shape of sounds of letters, the meaning of words or phrases, and grammatical information. When we interact these two aspects, what we got is comprehension. So you match, no? The reader matches the data, the information, with a schema, the background knowledge. Remember, schema is singular, yeah? Schemata is the plural, all right? So we have the data, the test, with the schemata, the background knowledge, your values, your beliefs, all right? So this is the interaction that we do when we read a test. Yeah? Remember, Yeah, this is the interaction, the two aspects that we are going to use when we read a test. All right, now, readers' first language and mental schemata, however, determine what they notice in a test and how they apply the mental schemata to that information. And second language readers' mental schemata are based on their first language and cultural background. No, so here, for example, in linguistics, we call this there is a term for this aspect, no? That we are going to make an interference. No, the language, the knowledge that we have in our language interferes with the process of reading because we have some different structures or some different values or different cultural backgrounds. So sometimes it interferes and it makes it a little complicated to understand or to have a meaning or to get a meaning of the test, all right? So there is an interference. Huh? This means that what a second language reader notices in the test and how they interpret it will vary due to the differing expectations about language structure and cultural attitudes toward literacy. So this is what I told you, no? So here we are going to compare, no? We are going to compare our language structure with the foreign language structure or our culture with the culture that is presented in the test. So we are going to have this interference, all right? And here you have another diagram talking about these two aspects. So here you have a knowledge base, no, and a processing strategies, and you have the test. The knowledge base is related to the world knowledge. This is your background knowledge, what you know about people, places, events, activities, and also the knowledge you have about a language, sentences, phrases, words, letters, or sounds. So you use these two knowledges, all right? Your prior knowledge about people, places, events, and activities, experiences you have, and also the knowledge of the language. And then you use here this process, these strategies, cognitive processing strategies. You have inferencing, predicting, problem solving, constructing meaning. And then you have the language processing strategies, chunking into phrases. Chunk is to group, yeah? Chunking into phrases, accessing word meaning, word identification, and letter recognition. So here you have this, notice these two aspects, no? The schemata, yeah? The schemata, and the information that you know about the language. And you apply all of this when you read a test, okay? So here you have these two aspects, all right? Don't forget about these two aspects when we read a test. It's not just to decodify the letters and what they mean exactly, no? You are going to use your prior knowledge, your schemata, in order to understand the meaning, all right? Okay, now, here we are going to pass to the other one, and we are going to talk about this term that you have here. Oh, what's happening, please? Your microphones. Don't forget to turn off your microphones. All right, so here you have another term related to reading and also related to the other skills too. That is very important, literacy. Do you have any idea what is literacy? Literacy. Do you have any idea? Literacy.
Alphabetization.
Excuse me, again, please. I couldn't hear you.
Alphabetization.
Yeah, yeah. In Spanish, this is an Spanish version of this term. Yes, okay. So here you have, sorry. Oh, yeah, Luis says, being able to read. Being able to read. Yeah, just reading. Generally, this term is applied to a person who is able to read and speak, right? Generally. Oh yeah, literacy, when you know how to read and how to speak, all right? Yeah, this is in a Spanish term, no? Alphabetization, if you want to say that, but this is literacy, literacy. In English is literacy. That's it. Excellent, Luis. Very good. So to read and speak, this is a general concept of literacy. So here we're going to notice, what is it about? Literacy is a set of attitudes and beliefs about the ways of using a spoken and written language that are acquired in the course of a person's socialization into a specific cultural context. So this is literacy. Remember, attitudes that we are going to show, attitudes and beliefs that we are going to show about the ways of using a spoken and written language. So what we speak, all right, what we read, what we listen, and this is literacy. Yeah? So how do we acquire this? When we socialize into a specific cultural context. All right, so don't forget what is literacy. All right, attitudes and beliefs related to the ways, the forms of using a spoken and written language. We acquire or learn, yeah? Remember that we could use this acquire or learn, could be in the first language or a second language or a foreign language, yeah? When you socialize, when you interact with other people in a specific cultural context. Okay, so this is literacy. So as we have seen before, when we read, we're going to use, remember, we're going to use this knowledge about the spoken and written language in order to match with the new information that we receive. So that's why here literacy is important, all right? As we talked before, there's gonna be an interference between the first language and the second language related to your background knowledge, related to your experiences, and also related to the knowledge of the language you have. Okay? For example, if you are an excellent reader in your first language, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be an excellent reader in the second language. Because we have different structures, different ways of using the written and spoken language. And vice versa. If you are maybe a not good reader of the first language, you can be, I'm not assuring that, you can be a good reader on the second language. Maybe, no? So notice here the differences between these two aspects. So don't forget what is literacy, yeah? Attitudes and beliefs about how to use spoken and written language that you acquire when you socialize, when you interact with people in a context, no? In a specific cultural context. So this is literacy, okay? Now, teachers cannot assume that students, this is what I told you, who are good readers in their native language can simply apply successfully the same skills to reading in English. So it's not the same, all right? It's not the same because we have different cultural, different structures, all right? So what does it mean? That teaching reading in standard English to second or foreign language learners means helping them, so we as a teacher, so we are going to help them to acquire the ways of thinking about tests that are practiced by native speaker of English, all right? So we are going to help them acquire these ways of thinking about a test that native speakers do. native English speakers do, all right? So here what we have to do as a teacher, right? As teachers, okay? In fact, learning to read and comprehend a second language require learning a secondary literacy. Alternative, it means alternative cultural interpretations, cultural beliefs about language and discourse, and culture-specific formal and content schemata. So, new experiences, new beliefs, no? Because when you speak English, you have to talk about the culture, or maybe you are learning American English, so you have to know about the culture of USA or the United States, no? You're learning a British English, so you have to learn about the culture of England or the United Kingdom, no? Notice that they are going to learn, they are going to acquire a new background knowledge, a new knowledge of a language, right? Remember these two aspects, the background knowledge, the schemata, and also new structures of the language. So they are gonna have a second literacy, a secondary literacy. So we are able to manage these two languages. So it means that we have two cultural backgrounds, two information about or knowledge about the language, the structure of the language. No? So notice this aspect when we are going to read, we are going to learn to read and comprehend a second language. All right? Okay, now we are going to pass now talking about theories of reading. Related to those aspects that we have analyzed, you are going to notice that we are not going to change so much the topic. We are going to make a relationship with the previous aspect, all right? Theories of reading. Remember, when we teach a language, and as you know, maybe you know, we have different methods to teach a language. And they vary, no? They have varied according to time, no? So we have, for example, 50 or 60 years ago or more maybe, we have a common method that is called grammar translation. I don't know if you have heard about it. Yeah, grammar translation. For example, when I was a kid, my father used to study in IPNA Institute. Yes, he studied at IPNA Institute. And I saw his books from 50, 60 years ago. And these books are completely different from the books that we have now, that we used to teach English. What happened with these books in the past? They use a method, a grammar translation method. So what was the purpose of this method? To translate. If you had the possibility to watch these kind of books, so they have the sentence in English, then below the translation in Spanish. All the book was like this. And it was changing, right? It has been changing. Then we passed to another method, then another method. Now we are using, and the most commonly used is the communicative approach. No? So we are changing, the methods are changing. Then appear another method, no? Another strategy that is flipped classroom. I don't know if you have heard about the flipped classroom. In Spanish is el aula invertida, no? The flipped classroom. So we have different methods. Something similar happens with the idea of reading, how to teach reading or how we learn or acquire this skill. That's why we say that there are theories of reading. Let's pass to analyze one of them. The first one, that is called the traditional view of reading. This view is focused on the printed form of a text. So the most important here in the process of reading is the text. What does text say? No more. The printed form of the text. This is the traditional view, all right? Then we have the second theory of reading, that is the cognitive view. It focuses or enhances the roles of background knowledge in addition to what appear on the printed page. So notice here the difference. In the traditional one, the most important is the test, the printed phone number test, and the analysis of this test. In the cognitive, we add another aspect that we were talking about, yes? A few minutes ago, we were talking about this, the background knowledge. In addition to what you have on the test, on the printed test. No? Notice this is the second theory of reading. The third theory is the metacognitive view. I know that you have heard this term before, no? Metacognition. Nowadays, this term is so used. It is used a lot. Metacognition, metacognitive view. So what does it say? Based on the control and manipulation that a reader can have on the act of comprehending a text. So the reader can manipulate, can control the act of comprehension. So he can interact, as we have seen, interact the cognitive and the traditional and add other aspects and control this process and analyze this process, the strategies that he uses as a reader. This is the metacognitive. So we are going to talk about more of these three, yeah? And we are going to start with the traditional view, yeah? The traditional view. So here we have a famous linguist that is Dole, yeah? 1991. What does he say? He says that the traditional view of reading, novice reading, so beginners, yeah? The person who start reading, novice readers acquire a set of hierarchically ordered sub-skills that sequentially build toward comprehension ability. So here we are going to acquire, yeah, step by step. According to this point of view, we are going to acquire step by step some sub-skills in order to get a complete or a whole comprehension ability. According to this point of view, readers are passive recipients of information in the test. So they just receive, 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 and receive, no more. Meaning resides in the test, and the reader has to reproduce the meaning. Notice, reproduce. So what it says, equal. You have to say equal. You don't have to change anything. Oh, but I think, no. What the test says, no more. So here is not taking into account your background knowledge, all right? No background knowledge, no schemata, just what the test says, no more. This is the traditional view. Notice the traditional view. The readers are passive, all right? They just receive. As here says, they are recipients, no more. Like a container, no, like a container. They just receive, 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 all right? So then here we have, according to another linguist, Noonan, 1991 again, reading in this view is basically a matter of decoding a series of written symbols. Notice, this is the focus of this view. Decoding a series of written symbols into their own equivalents in the quest for making sense of the text. Decoding a series of written symbols. If you decode these written symbols, you can make sense of the text. And how do we call this view? Bottom up. Ah, yes. Remember, we have seen this term before, right? Bottom up. So here we're going to just to analyze the text. Decodify, here says, decoding the written symbols, and you can get a meaning or sense of the text. So we call this bottom up, bottom up model of reading. So you could say the bottom up model, as you can see in the picture, the reader is just passive. Just receive like a container, no? Notice here this person, you are pouring some water, so this person is like a container. Just receive the information, no more, all right? So here it says, readers proceed from written text to meaning, no more. Readers are passive recipients of meaning. Meaning resides in text. Meaning is driven by the text, so the text is the most important here. Reading proceeds from part to whole. Here, don't forget this, from part to a whole. This is the bottom up, yeah? From part to a whole. So here we believe, notice here, and you have to tell me, what can you see on this picture? What can you see? All you need is love, right? All you need is love. What can you see here? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? What can you see? No, nobody, nobody?
Words, colors,
Uh-huh. Words, colors, letters, right?
letters.
Uh-huh, it's a phrase. Uh-huh, that's good. Something more? No more, no more? Remember what we talked about, this point of view about reading. Here says that we are going to acquire some sub skills, right? Yeah, this is a sentence, okay? This is a sentence. A message in a game of different, yeah, all right. So we are going to acquire some sub skills in a hierarchical way, right? According to this view, this theory, yeah, the bottom up, the traditional way, yeah, this is the traditional way that you have to decode some written symbols. We're going to acquire, we are going to learn some sub skills and hierarchically, all right? In a hierarchically way. So notice here, we are going to acquire some sub skills step by step, as I told you, no? Step by step. So what does it mean? That first, we're going to identify letters. So this is what you told me, right? Oh, yes, teacher, I can see letters, words. All right, so you identify letters. Then you have to recognize the spelling patterns and words. Then you're going to process meaning by analyzing the sentence, a paragraph, or a text. No, here you have just a simple sentence. This is what you told me, right? Oh, teacher, yes, I can see letters. These letters you make words. These words create a phrase or a sentence. Notice what you did, all right? Yeah, okay. So here you have this notice. According to the traditional, yeah, this is the traditional view, reading, first you identify letters, then you recognize the patterns and words. Then you're going to process the meaning of a sentence or paragraph of a text. So these are the soft skills that we are going to acquire or learn according to the traditional view or according to the bottom-up perspective. Remember, this is bottom-up, yeah? Bottom-up perspective. So we are going to identify letters, recognize patterns, spelling patterns, and words. We're going to understand the meaning by analyzing the sentence, the paragraph, and the text. This is the traditional view, the bottom-up perspective. Remember, yeah? So summing up, the bottom-up model emphasizes a single direction, part to whole. Remember, part to whole. So you start analyzing the parts, the chunks. Now remember, you analyze the chunks, the parts of a sentence, and you have this. Notice here that you have this from bottom to the top. All right, bottom to the top. So from a part to a whole. So you analyze the words, the letters, the symbols in order to get a meaning. All right, so this is the bottom up, the bottom up point of view or traditional theory of reading. Okay, now let's continue with the other one, the cognitive view. So what do they say? According to this cognitive view is also called the top-down model. It's in a direct opposition to the bottom-up model. According to Nuna, 1991, and Dovin and Bissina, 1991, the psycholinguistic model, this is another name for this model, the psycholinguistic model of reading and the top-down model are in exact concordance. So they have, they share the same beliefs, the same patterns, all right? So this is the opposite of the bottom-up. Remember, the bottom-up is just to decode the written symbols and to get a sense of the text. The top-down here, according to this, reading is a psycholinguistic guessing game. You're going to guess. It's a process in which readers sample the text, make hypotheses, confirm or reject them, make new hypotheses, and so forth. Notice the difference with the previous one. In the previous one, you have to decodify just what the text says, no more to reproduce the text. Here, no, you're not going to reproduce it. You're going to modify, because you are going to make hypotheses. You are going to confirm what the test says, or maybe you can reject what the test says. And so you can create new hypotheses and so forth. Notice here the contrast between these two views of reading. The reader, rather than the test, is at the heart of the reading process. Again, another difference. On the previous one, you have the test is the most important. The written test is the most important. Now, what is the most important here? The reader. This is the heart of the reading process, okay? Remember this term, schemata, as building blocks of cognition, which are used in the process of interpreting sensory data, in retrieving information from memory, in organizing goals and sub-goals, in allocating resources, and in guiding the flow of the processing system. So schemata is the principal aspect in a cognitive view of reading, because you use this schemata as a building blocks of cognition. So you're going to use, notice schemata. Remember what was schemata? Can you remember what was it? Schemata?
Prior knowledge.
Your prior knowledge. About what?
Person.
Your values, your beliefs, your experiences. So you are going to retrieve information. Retrieve is to get back, not to come back. Information from memory. So you have to remember, oh yes, my father told me about it. Yeah, yes, I know this. Yeah. So you match. You organize your goals and sub-goals. Yes, I have to do this. Yes, I know because my father told me about it. Yeah, so I have to do it. Allocating resources, guiding the flow of the processing system. So notice here that the most important here is the background knowledge, the prior knowledge. That's why you can make hypotheses. You can reject or you can accept information, the information that you receive, all right? And you can create or make new hypotheses, all right? So here, the schemata is one of the most important aspects of reading. Your prior knowledge, your background knowledge, and you match this knowledge with information given in the test. So the top-down model acknowledges that, and notice here again the picture. What can you see on the picture? What can you see? Notice the arrow. So you are at the top and you are going down, right?
There.
So you are at the top. Here you have some stairs, no? And you are getting down, no? You can get down, all right? Oh, Juanita. Oh, yeah, congratulations. Congratulations, Juanita. Okay, so here, as I told you before, an important element, according to this point of view, this view of reading, is the reader's prior knowledge. Yeah, the reader's prior knowledge. This is one of the important elements, one of the most important elements in the process of reading. The students or the reader's prior knowledge focuses on what readers bring to the process, what he has, what she has, and brings it to this process of reading. Readers activate prior knowledge or activate schemata to understand tests, right? They activate this prior knowledge, this background knowledge, schemata, remember, activate schemata to understand the tests. Readers are active processors of meaning. Now they are not passive. They are active because they give opinions, interact, make hypotheses, contrast. Well, I know what the test says. Oh, yes, I agree with that. Oh, no, I don't agree with that. So it's an interactive process. It's not a passive process. And notice here the difference. And notice again here the change. Reading proceeds from whole to part. Yeah, from whole to part. So it's vice versa, right? Vice versa. The other ones was from part to whole. Now this is from whole, complete, to the specific, general, specific, all right? So this is that top-down model, all right? Or cognitive, remember, cognitive view of reading, okay? Now we're going to make as a feedback, a contrast. But before doing that, I want you to tell me how much can you remember about this? The traditional and cognitive. Please tell me differences between the traditional and cognitive. Volunteers, please, volunteers. Who can tell me differences between the traditional and cognitive? Any volunteer who says me? The differences. I told you, try to remember. What are the differences? No volunteers? Don't be shy, don't be afraid.
Teacher, in traditional, the readers based on the text.
Yeah, all right. Luis Vera says traditional is test-based. That's it. What else? What else? Any other difference? Make a contrast between the traditional and cognitive.
Traditional learn just what the text says, and the modern way, and the reader expresses opinions about that.
Excellent, that's it, very good. Any other one? No more, no more? How can you see a reader? What is the function of the reader now?
Is active.
Aha, yes. This is another difference, no? The reader in the traditional is passive, but in the cognitive is active. All right, so here we're going to say, we're going to check, yeah? Traditional view of reading, remember, bottom-up model. Cognitive view of reading, top-down model. All right, so we have two models. Then we're going to analyze a third one, but first these two, yeah? Traditional view of reading. So reading is a passive activity. Just to decode, remember, decode symbols and says exactly what the text said, no? That's why it's passive. But in the cognitive, reading is a dynamic activity. It's not passive because the reader contrasts what he knows, what she knows, and what the text says, and make hypotheses, infer, all right, and so on. Traditional readers have no control over the act of comprehending a text. But on the other side, cognitive readers make use of their previous knowledge to comprehend a text. He controls. Oh yeah, I know this, but he says another way. No, I'm not sure about it. And so he can do other things, he can investigate, make a research, and so on. No? And the third one, readers rely only on the formal features of language in the quest for making sense of a text. Remember, the formal features of language, the analysis of words, patterns, structures. This is the formal features of language. But on the other side, the cognitive view of top-down model, readers as well as tests are at the heart of a reading process. So the most important here, it doesn't mean that the tests are not important, because it is important, but here the readers are so important too. There is an interaction between the reader and the test. That's why here the cognitive is a dynamic activity, not a passive activity. All right? Okay, so here we are going to pass to another. Excellent, Luis. Yes, you're right. You're right. You're completely right. The cognitive generates more critical thinking. All right. But here, the other one, the other view talks about this more. Yeah? Notice here, the third model. Let's pass to the third view because we talked about three. The traditional, cognitive, and the other was? Excellent, Luis. Yes, you're right. You're right. This is not what you do on the first one. Yes. And what about the third one? The third one, remember, what was the third one? Can you remember about the third one? Traditional, cognitive, and the third one? Can you remember before passing to the other slide? What was the third one?
Metacognitive.
Excellent. Now we are going to talk about the metacognitive. What is the metacognitive view? Notice here, metacognition involves thinking about what one is doing while reading. Notice, thinking about what one is doing while reading. This is said by Klein et al. So any other linguist, yeah? 1991, state that strategic readers attempt the following while reading. What do the metacognitive readers do while they are reading? So here you have identifying the purpose of the reading before reading. So they identify the purpose of reading. All right, notice in the traditional, they just decode the symbols. Cognitive, oh, they use the prior knowledge, the background knowledge to match with the new information. But now what happened with the metacognitive? Why do you read? What is the purpose of reading? Why do you have to read this test? What is the reason? This is the metacognitive. Remember, metacognitions involves thinking about what one is doing while reading. So you analyze, all right? You analyze the process of reading, the reason of reading. This is one. Identify the purpose of reading before reading. Identifying the form or type of the test before reading. So you analyze, oh, this is an article. Is this an email? Is this a podcast or maybe a blog? It's an article in a newspaper, in a magazine. So notice they identify the form or type of the test before reading. And thinking about the general character and features of the form or type of the test. For example, for instance, they try to locate a topic sentence and follow supporting details toward a conclusion. I don't know if you have heard about this term before, topic sentence. Do you know what it means? Topic sentence. For example, here says, readers try to locate or to find a topic sentence and follow supporting details toward a conclusion. Do you know what it means? Topic sentence? What is it? A topic sentence. Aha, Bethy says the principal topic. Yeah, there is another one. Topic sentence. Yes, Luis, excellent. Is the sentence that briefly describes or summarizes what the test is about. Excellent. This is the topic sentence. And you can find this not just to talk about the complete or the whole test, no? You can find this if you have a test, a longer test with 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. So you can find topic sentence for each paragraph. And you can identify the message, the general idea of each paragraph. All right? So notice here, what is the metacognitive? Notice, what is the difference with the other two? Here you're going to analyze the process of reading, all right? Metacognition, remember. That's it, Luis. It gives you a notion of the rest of the content. Yes, that's it, very good. That topic sentence, and don't forget it. So we use, for example, this technique when you give a test to a student, no? In order to make more analysis of the test. No? What is the topic sentence of the test of each paragraph? No? Which sentence summarizes the idea of the test, or which sentence summarizes the idea of each paragraph? So this is called a topic sentence, and don't forget it. So don't here you have that metacognition, and remember, metacognition involves thinking about what one person or one reader is doing while reading. And in order to do that, he identified the purpose of the reading, this person identified the form or type of the test, or think about the futures, the future characteristics of the form or type of the test. An example is identifying the topic sentence of the test of each paragraph. No? So notice here the metacognitive view. Now, let's continue with the other one. In a metacognitive view, projecting the author's purpose for writing the test while reading it. Now, when this person reads the test or is reading the test, so he projects the author's purpose. What was the reason for this article or for this test? the author purpose. Remember, know the reader's purpose. The author purpose. Why did he write this test? So he identifies this, all right? Another, choosing, scanning, or reading in detail. Here you have other terms. Choosing, scanning, or reading in detail. So you're going to read specifically each idea, each message. This is reading in detail. And scanning, have you heard about this word before? This is one of the two sub-skills when we develop reading. Skimming, scanning. I don't know if you have heard before. Skimming and scanning. Scan. Do you know what it means? Scan, scanner. Try to make a simile with the tool, with the machine.
Scan is the copy to text exactly.
Yeah, but there is another more information.
A general idea.
Yes, that's right. No, you scan a test. So you pass through the test and get a general idea. And skimming?
Specific information.
Yeah, all right, that's it. That's it. All right, yes, you're right. So here we are going to read again, yeah, to look for some specific information. Notice here the difference with reading in detail, yeah. Here, skimming is when you read the test, not so slowly, yeah, you have to read fast, but just for looking for some specific information. It's not necessary to read the whole test. You just look for the specific information, all right? But reading in detail, you have to read the complete test, the whole test, all right? To get the general meaning for each idea of each sentence. This is reading in detail, yeah? Reading in detail is a more precisely way of reading. You have to be more specific than in skimming. Skimming is just a fast reading, but just looking for some specific information, all right? For example, no, you are giving a test and you have, how old is Anita? Yeah, you look, yeah, 13. She's 13, listo. Where is she from? Oh, yeah, she's from Canada. Yeah, she's from Canada. So this is skimming. But as reading in detail, no. So you have, for example, reading in detail, you say, what is the purpose of the readers or the writers? So you have to read the whole test, yeah? The whole test to identify what is the purpose of the writer. So notice here the differences. Yeah? Scanning just is a fast reading, yeah? It's a quick reading just to get a general idea of the test. Skimming is when you read fast again, but now to look for some specific information. And reading in detail, yeah, this is a more complete process of reading. Yeah? So you have to know the meaning of each word. If you don't have the meaning of each word, you can get the meaning of each word, you cannot get the whole understanding, the whole comprehension of the test. All right? So notice here, what is the metacognitive? This is the metacognitive view. All right? Notice the difference with the other twos. Notice the difference with the other twos. So, making continuous predictions about what will occur next or based on information obtained earlier, prior knowledge, and conclusions obtained within the previous stages. So you are going to join all of these predictions about what will occur next, or prediction based on information obtained earlier, no? Prior knowledge, and conclusions obtained within the previous stages. So notice that a metacognitive view is more complete. So here involves the analysis of the language. involves the background knowledge. And also you have to identify other aspects of the process of reading, no? The purpose of the reading, the purpose of the writer, no? How you analyze the contextual features of the text, and you're going to project or make here some predictions about what is or will happen next. So notice here how this view is more complete. It is joining all of the previous stages, the previous views, and adds more about this process of reading. All right? So don't forget about it. Now, here, don't forget that we are finishing here. Yeah? Now, please tell me, you have any question? Do you have any question about these three views of reading? Remember that we have these three views of reading. Is it clear? Something is not clear? No, no more questions? All is clear about these three views, these theories of reading?
It's clear, teacher.
It's clear. All right. Okay, anybody else? No questions? Don't be afraid of making questions. If something is not clear. Okay, so there are no more questions. So as I told you before, this second part is going to be theoretical, and then in the first class and the second class, so the first week and the second week, we're going to talk about different definitions and concepts. For example, next session, we're going to talk about two aspects of reading, that is extensive and intensive reading, yeah? And then we're going to analyze the stages of a reading lesson. We are going to analyze these stages that we are going to share for all the skills. Yeah? For example, we have the pre, the while, and the post. You have heard about it, maybe. No? Pre-reading skills, pre-reading activities, while reading activities, and post-listening, post-reading activities. As I told you, we are going to apply these three stages for all the skills. And also we are going to analyze that when we teach reading, it doesn't mean that we are going to teach reading by itself, no, because it's impossible. Just teaching reading is not possible. You are going to combine with the other skills. For example, in order to activate schemata, so you are going to speak with your students, but the focus is on the reading skill. But as I told you, when I say that we are going to talk about the reading lesson, it doesn't mean that we're going to just read, no? We are going to use speaking or maybe listening, no? Or writing if you want to talk about your conclusions. So we are going to combine. But the focus of this lesson is going to be to develop some reading skills or SAP skills. So on the second session, don't forget, we're going to talk about intensive reading and extensive reading. I don't know if you have heard this term before. And also we are going to talk about the stages of a reading lesson. On the third and the fourth session, we are going to see and develop some techniques, some strategies, activities that we are going to use related to the top-down or bottom-up, or related to the different stages of the reading lesson. This is for the third and the fourth session. So don't forget, the first and the second, we're going to analyze concept, definition, theories. The third and the fourth is more practical. I'm going to show you some activities, some strategies, and you are going to maybe to develop these activities or strategies. So this is what we are going to do in this module. Remember, this is the second part of the program. This is related to the teaching process. how to teach reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So we are going to analyze the 4 skills. Then we're going to talk about how to teach grammar, vocabulary, and finally, remember in the last module, we are going to analyze some aspects of the ICT, no, that TICs, in Spanish is TICs, that nowadays we are learning to use them, no? Nowadays we are getting used to learning. So we are going to get more familiarized in order to develop these skills, ICT skills, all right? Okay, if there is no more questions, so we are going to stop here. Oh, yes, you are right, Luis. Excellent. Just reading is just like testing, no? Testing the knowledge, testing the vocabulary range of the students, so they know the tenses, no? This is a kind of lack, as you told me, yes. A lack of purpose, yes, you're right, you're right. Excellent, Luis, very good. Your comments are excellent. That's right. So, if there are no more questions, so it was a pleasure to meet you again. So I'm gonna wait for you for the next session. Don't be late, please try to be on time. I know that the internet connections are so terrible. They are having trouble with the internet connection, but try to be on time to get the most of it, okay? So that's all for today. So see you next class, see you next session. Take care a lot.
Teacher, please.
Yeah, tell me.
I want to ask some about tasks. What's the time to send you?
Excuse me.
The date to send about the tasks.
Yeah, about the tasks. About this module or the previous modules?
The previous module.
Oh yeah, you have to send it on this platform, on the virtual class.
About the date.
Ah, the date. It was on Friday, the last date.
All the tasks.
Yeah, I told you from the beginning that you have a month to complete the task. Yeah, but try to send me, if you can do it, please try to send me during these days, yeah?
Okay, teacher, thank you.
All right, okay.
Teacher, sorry, we have to upload it to the class, right?
Yeah,
Only to the class, not to your
yeah.
email or nothing.
Maybe if you have some troubles because some of your partners, some of your colleagues told me that have some internet connections were not so well. Yeah. So in this way, you can send me to the email or the WhatsApp, no?
Okay, teacher.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot of options.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, any other question?
Teacher,
yeah, tell
teacher,
me.
I already sent you my homework.
All right,
I don't know if you received.
Yeah, yes. So I'm checking next class or maybe on the WhatsApp group, I'm gonna send you who is missing, all right?
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all for today. See you next session. Take care a lot. Yeah, take care a lot. And we are going to continue talking about reading the next class, all right?
Goodbye, teacher.
Okay, bye-bye. See you. Take care.
See you, teacher.
Bye-bye. See you.
See you. Thank you, teacher.
Bye-bye. Thank you for your attention too.
See you next
Bye-bye.
class.
See you next class. See you next class.
See you, teacher.